Welcome to Foam to Fortune, the ultimate podcast for spray foam insulation industry. Whether you're a contractor aiming to take your business to the next level or a vendor bringing innovation to the market, this is the place where success stories are shared, insider tips are uncovered, and the industry secrets are revealed. Join us as we dive into the journeys of the spray foam pros who turn their dreams into thriving empires and discover tools and strategies to build your own path to fortune. Ready to elevate your spray foam game? Let's get started. Foam to Fortune, where innovation meets inspiration. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Foam to Fortune podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and today's guest is Todd Bolton from Lexington, South Carolina, and he is the owner of Synergy Spray Foam. What's up, Todd? Welcome to the show.
What's happening? It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too, brother. Tell these listeners, I know not everybody knows who Todd Bolton is, what Synergy is all about, but give us a little bit of introduction of, who you are personally, business-wise, and how long you've been in the business.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I'm a husband and a father. I have a beautiful wife at home and some loving kids. Synergy to me is exactly what it is. Synergy is the synergy of HVAC and spray foam insulation. My niche is combining the two. They're inverse coefficients of each other, and so they have to synergize. And that's the world that I revolve in.
Yeah, for sure, man. And we were talking pre-show. Sounds like you got involved in spray foam for the last 5 to 7 years, but
sure.
That's kind of piggybacking off your 21 years of HVAC experience. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So 21 years in the HVAC industry really set me up nicely with an understanding of thermodynamics and heat loads and calculations to be able to gravitate into the into the spray foam industry. It wasn't 10, 15 years ago. I kind of seen the writing on the wall with government efficiencies that spray foam was eventually going to be the thing, and that's where we're going. I started my first HVAC business in 2017. 2020, I combined it with another HVAC company, and we became a company that kind of went south. That's a whole other story. But in 2023, I rebranded myself as Synergy Spray Foam, and just to cover the two industries.
I love it because, part of Synergy Spray Foam, and one of the ways that you and I connected is that both our companies have Einstein as our mascots.
That's right. So Einstein means a lot to me. I'm a science fanatic, physics fanatic. So for me, it was just natural to have the grandfather of physics to be the one that's representing my company as to how to figure out how the dynamics of a building should function. And that's who I would want to know that is deciding if my building's going to be efficient or comfortable, or if the indoor air quality is going to be perfect.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he, as a genius, you want a genius to figure that all out, right? And that's
sure.
what I think you guys are.
Well, there's not but a whole lot of us geniuses out there, right? No, I'm just kidding.
True, right? We're just gonna sit here and refer to ourselves as geniuses.
Yeah, sure.
Share with me and the listeners. I know the story, but if we rewind time about 13, 14 months ago, you tied the knot with your amazing new wife down in Vegas and at the SPFA show. And honestly, man, I'd only seen that really on the movies where people go to Vegas to get married. And I know this wasn't the plan, but share with the listeners of kind of like what happened in Vegas and what your wife's take was about getting married there.
Anna here from Spray Foam Genius, proud to be sponsoring this episode of the Foam to Fortune podcast featuring Todd Bolton. Let's be real. You've got enough on your plate already. You shouldn't have to guess how to get found online. That's what we do. We help spray foam companies like yours show up on Google so you get more calls, more jobs, and less stress. Sound good? Give us a call. 877-840-FOAM for the US, 844-741-FOAM for Canada, or hit up sprayfoamgeniusmarketing.com. Now, let's get back to it. Todd's got some real insight to share.
So I'll tell you what my wife knew. before going to Vegas, Lauren, my beautiful wife, she knew that we were not going to get married in Vegas. And she made that very, very clear on our way to Vegas that we weren't going to get married. I'd proposed the summer before, and we were in the process of figuring out what we were going to do, how we were going to get married, where we were going to do it at, how to prepare for it. None of it made any sense just yet. But the only thing that made sense to her was that Vegas was too cliche and it just wouldn't happen. And it did. So we got down there. They have all of the chapels lined down all the roads, sparks kind of flying a little bit, and she said, "Well, what if?" I said, "Well, don't threaten me with a good time. You're already out of my league. It won't take me but a second." so,
Yeah.
so yeah, but yeah, we did. We had a beautiful wedding. Went down to what I call the DMV of weddings. Vegas it's remarkable. You have this institution that you go into. It's like the DMV. You go in and get your marriage license and stand in your lines and do everything you got to do and come back out and you can get married the next day. But we did. We got married at a little chapel, and what's ironic is that I was wearing the shirt when we went to the what I call the marriage DMV. I was wearing AccuFoam put out a shirt in Vegas called the Changeover, and it was a play off of the Hangover. And so I'm sitting in line, I'm realizing I'm wearing this shirt, so it created a good sense of humor. And then the next day we ended up getting married at the little chapel that the Hangover was filmed in. Yeah. So everything went full circle, and it was a really good time. It was a chapel full of spray foam contractors. Some of our best friends from around the country. But it turned out perfect.
It was amazing. I remember we were leaving the convention at the same time as you guys were going to the chapel, and I was like, "Hey, Todd, where are you heading?" And you're like, "We're gonna go get married." And I was like, "No freaking way, man!" And to hear the full story, dude, it makes me giggle even to today. I don't know if it makes you guys laugh thinking about it, but it makes me laugh about it.
I love it. I love it. We don't do anything half-assed. If we're gonna do something, we wide open and making waves while we're doing it. It wasn't. Let's see. That was in Vegas. Right before Vegas, we had the year prior to that, we were in Daytona, and my wife was literally 9 months pregnant when we were in Daytona. Like, we weren't going to go on a trip, and she knew how bummed I was about it. And she was literally 9 months pregnant and said, the days leading up to it, she said, "If you want to do this, let's get it." And she did. We got in the vehicle and rode down, and she was ready to bust at any moment. So
she's like, "If I have this baby, this is all your fault."
Yeah. So funny story. We were in the conference, and Brendan Yoakum come up to my wife, and she didn't know him from Adam. And of course, he has a firefighter background, and the joking spirit that he is, he knew she was 9 months pregnant, and just out the blue, he came up to her and was like, "Ma'am, if you feel like you're going to have this baby, I'm fully prepared to deliver it right here for you." It just blew her mind. That's a
God, I bet she was caught off guard with that type of comment, huh?
Yeah.
So when you got into the business in 2020, it sounds like not only due to COVID, but you had some really big challenges. And one thing that I really love to hear about is how we as humans overcome challenges and our failures. Tell us what happened in 2020, man, because it's quite a crazy story.
2020 was hard, man. It was tough, but it's not our failures that define us. It's how we react to them. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, it's how do we take that next step, that put that next foot forward and forget about the problem, because we can't pray for courage and just ask the Lord to give us courage. We got to pray for circumstances to build courage. And I'll say, I prayed for strength. I can't tell you how many times, but I'll say the Lord put me in position in 2020, not to have strength, but to build strength. But 2020 was a tough year. And it wasn't just COVID. Went through a divorce in 2020. I don't know if a whole lot of people really know this whole story, but yeah, 2020, I went through a divorce. COVID hit. I decided simultaneously that I was merging my business with another contractor, another HVAC contractor, and we were just going to become a spray foam contractor doing HVAC. And 15 days after I wrote a check, stroked it, boom, ready to buy my first rig. Rig came in, I got in a car accident. I fell asleep driving, car ran upside the road, hit a culvert. The car rolled 8 times and I went through the windshield and hit a tree. And so I was in ICU for a little while. And yeah, so 2020 was tough, man. It was tough. And but you know, it's a matter of how do we keep moving forward. And I will say, when I just met, going through everything I'd gone through, and just a couple of months before we got in the car accident, I just met Lauren, my wife now, and yeah, again, I already thought she was out of my league. I said, this is just going to be fun for a while, but I got in the car accident, and I was in ICU, and she would not leave my side. She stayed at my bedside. She watched me. She helped me use the bathroom. I mean, things that someone you just meet typically don't do. And for me, that was merit. That was marriage material. So yeah, she's a keeper, and then automatically I knew it was like, well, maybe there's more to her thinking that I'm just a good time for this. So yeah, I was like, yeah, she stayed by my side, and that meant the world to me. So despite of everything that went on, as if the spray foam business isn't hard enough, despite it all, COVID, divorce, car accident, spray foam industry, I met my wife, and yeah, it's the biggest blessing I could have received that year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they say you're only as good of a man as your sidekick, your partner, and sounds like you found a great partner in crime. I know when I found my current wife, kind of a similar situation. I mean, I didn't fly through a windshield, Todd, but I found a woman that is very supportive. She's my ride or die. She knows if anybody can do something, it's going to be me. I'll figure it out no matter what the challenge is.
Sure.
And to have a support system like that is, I personally feel, is what makes us men. Like,
yeah,
I think I'd be kind of lost in this world without her.
Well, I would have spiraled out of control. It's not a matter of if, but for how long I would have. But she kept me sane. She kept me grounded, and she's still my rock. And I'll say, to take away a lot of it, I gained her as a spouse and as a support system. And then on top of that, the whole experience, there was things I experienced that night that I shouldn't be here, and genuinely for a little while wasn't. But it changed my whole paradigm on life. Very humbling. But it made me realize just how finite life is, and so while we're on this planet, the least we can do is as much good as we can possibly do, and that's how we'll be defined at the end of the day. Is our memories, because that's all that's going to be left of us.
Yeah, for sure.
And so today, I mean, it's no secret that I try to do a fair amount of charitable work, but it all stems from that. So, if there's ever any instances in which I can possibly do or help somebody, I certainly do. And the Spray Foam Worldwide group, it's another support system that allows that to happen.
Yeah, and I continuously hear this from every one of our guests about Spray Foam Worldwide, the camaraderie that you guys have all just developed with each other, the family. I mean, or I guess I should say the family, right?
It is.
You guys have an amazing bond, and from a guy like myself, I kind of feel like an outsider because I'm not a spray foam contractor, but I see it. It's very inspirational. And you also said that you guys are now kind of looking for charitable things to get involved in, so that you guys just have an excuse to hang out and have your buddies, fly out and help with projects.
I mean, as selfish as that sounds, it's the truth. It's not that we want to help anybody any less, but it just gives us a vessel to kill two birds with one stone, and to just really do some good work while we're doing it. Here at home, I have some friends. I don't have a whole lot of friends. There's not a whole lot of people on my frequency. I'm a huge believer in vibrations and frequencies, and I just don't hang out with a whole lot of people. I don't know if it's ambition and drive, or just that I'm a little more cuckoo than the rest of them. But in the Spray Foam Worldwide group as a whole, I have so many close friends around the country, and at the drop of a dime, I could put a post out and say I needed some help with something personal, and I guarantee you there'd be a plane full of people headed this way tomorrow. And
Yeah.
just as any of them would know that I would do the same thing.
Mhm.
But I have some really, really close friends around the country, and it's a huge blessing.
I think in general, Todd, I don't know if this it makes you feel a little bit better, but life as an entrepreneur is fairly lonely, right?
Sure.
Because a lot of guys like yourself and myself, we can't relate to punching a clock. It's
Right.
been like 20 years since I've done that, and I that's like the worst nightmare for me to go back and work for somebody else. And
Yeah.
so when you think about that, my wife's always talking to me about, hey, you need to nurture your local friends. But you're right, man. Like there's just a lot of my local friends, they can't understand me. They don't really understand the business owner mindset. And so a lot of my friends are in very similar situation like yours. They live all over the country, and then we get together like maybe once a quarter or on a trip. And so I totally agree with you. Like to have these somewhat masterminds like what you're talking about, where you guys get together. Like not only is that fueling you from the perspective of acts of service, which they do say is one of the they've interviewed a lot of elderly people that are on their deathbed, and they said it's not about the money that you make, it's not about some of these things that we get stuck on, but it's really about the acts of service that really fulfills them. And it sounds to
Sure.
me like that's something that you've really discovered after your near death experience.
No, absolutely. And one thing that stuck with me a little while back, I had an opportunity to go down to the AccuFoam facility when they just opened it up, and I don't remember the gentleman's name, but his talk really, really, really stuck with me. But he talked about a survey that was put out amongst elderly men, men that were kind of checking out in life on their way out, and they just asked what their biggest regret was. And it was thousands and thousands of men, and the number one answer for what their biggest regret in life was not taking a chance. So I feel like as a whole, our society ingrains in us this mindset that we just have to get in this perpetual cycle and just punch a clock and pay a bill, and punch a clock and pay a bill, and that's how I grew up. I grew up very blue collar. I remember when I first mentioned to my family that I wanted to start a business, it was no, you can't do that. You got to have a 401k. You can't, you have to work for somebody. I'm like, no, I want to be that somebody.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, it puts you in a little bit of a different category, and it's not to say that I'm any better than anybody. I'm just different
Yeah.
because I don't help anybody out, and but it is lonely. It's a very lonely lifestyle sometimes to be a business owner, because to all of the people that you work with, you'll just always be the boss.
Mhm.
You see some of your employees sometimes will they go out and have pizza, or they have a beer, or they have this, and at the end of the day, they may hang out with you, but you never can be just their friend, because they'll always see you as just the boss.
Yeah.
So, but I like to
And
think that I like to think that eagles fly at a higher altitude, right? So
true.
it's a very lonely altitude.
True, and the thing is, it's as an owner, it's a very fine line of getting a little bit too friendly with the employees, because it's difficult when it comes to having to be the boss and make people understand, like, hey, this is strictly business. This is nothing personal. I like you as a person. You're a great human, but you're screwing up.
Sure,
That
sure.
conversation is a little bit harder when
Yeah,
you're eating pizza and drinking beers with your team.
it is, and that's a concept really that I've had to and still have to try to evolve into instilling in myself. Because I'm by nature I'm a people pleaser. Like I like to help people, and if someone screws up, then I'll get mad about it. But usually I'm just like, screw it, let's just get it together and move on. And if somebody doesn't show up to work, it's okay. But so I still have a lot of learning to do in that, and I read a lot on different processes and procedures. But it's detrimental for the growth of a business to be able to make true business decisions and set your emotions aside from it.
For sure, for sure. Is there any you mentioned reading. I love this because I think a lot of, we'll just say stereotypical blue collar spray foam contractors, they're not mentioning reading books often. Is
Sure.
there any favorites that you have that have changed your business or your mindset? I know you mentioned like you come from a very we'll just say, no disrespect, but a narrow mindset of parents that are like, no, Todd, you can't go be a business owner. You got to go work for somebody.
Sure.
And I grew up that same way. Like for me to be a business owner is totally outside the norm because my parents worked their whole life for somebody and also lived paycheck to paycheck. So is there
Yep.
any books out there that you would suggest for anybody that's tuning in?
Okay, quick story. It's Anna from Spray Foam Genius, sponsoring this episode with Todd Bolton. We talk to spray foam contractors every week who say the same thing. Anna, we're doing great work, but no one seems to know we exist. And we always say, that's a Google problem, not a you problem. We help spray foam businesses rank higher, show up faster, and close more jobs without the guessing game. If you're tired of hoping the phone rings, let's make it ring. Call us at 877-840-FOAM if you're in the US, or 844-741-FOAM in Canada, or just head over to sprayfoamgeniusmarketing.com. Now, back to the show. Todd's about to drop some golden nuggets.
Yeah, I think step one of anybody that's really trying to shift their mindset to an entrepreneurial mindset from being in any service industry is Michael Gerber's E-Myth. To me, it's very foundational from becoming a technician, so to speak, in the book to someone that understands business. From that, I mean, that was very, and sometimes I still revert back to it because it's so basic. It just makes sense. So E-Myth is huge, for me. And then I'm a little bit eclectic. So yeah, I'll go from E-Myth to the Bible to Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. I read, and I swear by the 48 Laws of Power. I know it might be a prison book, might be a little bit gangster, but the principles in it are second to none. I think the Atomic Habits, just instilling in yourself, the right habits and motivation. But those are.
It's a good one. You mentioned some really good ones. We actually, I'm part of a book club with my business coach, and I think this is going to be the third time we're starting Atomic Habits. Third time for me reading it, but we're starting that. We just finished Think and Grow Rich, which is also a classic. You were talking about masterminds and hanging out with guys that are really, vibrating and energetically on the same level. So I'd suggest Think and Grow Rich out there as well for those that are trying to level up. Old book, but a lot of it still applies to today, even though it's over 100 years old.
Right.
So, man, it sounds to me like within the last, we'll just call it 5-ish years, there's been lots of challenges for you. Is there anything that you can attribute, like your mindset of just continually keep pushing forward? Is it like a sports background that you had growing up? Like, is it your wife that just keeps telling you, Todd, you can't quit? Is it this inner voice? Like, what do you attribute your success and in your kind of your mentality to?
Yeah. It's a culmination of things. One is I grew up in a small town, and the next town over was always a much bigger town for me. And the general consensus of just existence was that we weren't as good as those folks. Right. They were just better people than us. They were more wealthier. They were better looking. They had better things than us. We'd just never be good enough. But so I always told myself that I will always be good enough, and I'll always find a way. So from that mentality, I kind of carried that over into sports a little bit. I played baseball. Growing up, for me, it was, everybody put one cleat on at a time. And while I was always told that I was never going to be as good as those people and didn't have the same opportunity, I said, well, you're going to have to outwork me. And so I was, and probably still am, the hardest working guy that I know. Now, I do know there's some hardworking people out there, but yeah, I played baseball all the way, growing up from elementary school to high school to college, up until I tore my rotator cuff and couldn't pitch anymore. And for me, that was like, shoot, man, when I couldn't play baseball anymore, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do with my life. Yeah. I love the sport so much that, when I last walked out of a baseball field, knew I couldn't play anymore. It took 10 years for me to go back into another baseball field. 10 years up until I had a son, and then they were ready to play. And, when I started coaching, and his name was Easton. That was my first son. I named him after a bat that I used to use. So
Oh
that,
yeah, those are good bats, man.
if that, I used to call it downtown.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
first came out,
yeah,
when they first came out, they were kind of known for being fatter, right? Wasn't
yeah,
that kind of their trademark was fatter on the end, and
that's right. They were,
aluminum
yeah,
bats, and I mean, aluminum bat in general was kind of one of those things that was new, I guess, when I was
sure.
growing up in the 90s. Like everybody had wood bats up until that point, and then Easton came out with the aluminum bat, and then they got real fat.
Yeah,
You're like, yeah, they look cooler than the rest of the bats.
yeah, yeah. That's right. That's right. Yeah, but so baseball was my life, and it was all I knew. And when I pitched in high school, and I mean, I won't say I was good, but damn, I was good. Um, I had the opportunity to play in a North South All Star game here in South Carolina, and that's basically the best of the best, and from the state. And I had an opportunity to pitch, and each pitcher had one inning, and I was still told that, and had my mindset that I've been told that I wasn't as good as these people, and it was hard for me from a little town like I was to get any kind of scholarship offers. I had a few small schools, and it wasn't much, but the school I wanted to go to, I tried reaching out to them, tried talking to them. They just weren't interested because I was just this little guy from Pelion, South Carolina. And then my dad called him and was like, "Hey, he's going to be pitching in the North South All Star game. You don't have to go to watch him, but you'll be there watching somebody else. Just pay attention when he pitches." And that's what happened for me is they paid attention when I pitched. I came up in the meat of the lineup, second, third, and fourth batter, and I struck them out. And after that, I started getting some offers, and I went down to the school that I wanted to pitch at, and they put a catcher out on the plate and had me throw about, I don't know, 7 or 8 pitches, and they started shaking their head. I was like, "All right, let's just go on up here and sign this and be done with it."
Wow.
But then I tore my rotator cuff and it ended it, and that was tough. But here we are. So after that, I didn't know what I was going to do. I left college. I didn't even finish college. I like to say right now where I'm at in my life, I'm probably one of the most educated people that I know, but it's not formal education. It's that I find things that I want to experience and I want to educate myself with, and I find a way to do that. So I left college and went straight into the HVAC industry. And as a beginning level HVAC installer, I would take the books. I'm like, this is free education. This is, we didn't really have YouTube and things back then, but they give me these boxes with these books in it. And why would I not read them? So I would take the books home with me, the installation manuals, the operation manuals, and I would just read them. And, until I got pretty good at it. And that's basically what kicked off, where I'm at today.
Yeah, I love it. I think that this says a lot about you, Todd, is somebody wasn't forcing you to learn. You had that inner drive to be the best. And I think that comes from, at least, I was a college athlete just like yourself. And so I think that comes from, growing up as a child with like wanting to be the best at your athletics. And then that kind of just transfers over into your professional career. And
Sure.
like you said, like if they give you a box of books, why would you just let them sit there and collect dust? Like I think that's blasphemy to allow that to happen. You need to educate yourself. That's what it's there for. So that does give me an insight on, what your drive is and what kind of like makes Todd who he is today. So thanks for sharing, man.
Sure.
You have touched on building science as being kind of your, like, just your wheelhouse, right? Can you share, like, did that start in high school as like in a science classroom? Where did you where'd you get this love for science in general, and then have it transition the building aspect of it?
So I've always been drawn to science. I don't know what, I don't know why. You know, and I still say today, one day I'm going to go to space, and so it drives my wife crazy. But I actually signed up to pre-qualify for one of the SpaceX visits when they start doing it, and so I say, I don't care what it costs, within reason. If I can, it's just one of those things that for me, it's that important. One day I'm going to go to space, so. Um, Science has just been it's just fascinating to me to think space. It's humbling because it's so big and it's so unknown, and we don't know. We don't know. I mean, we barely even know our ocean. How can we even completely think that we can possibly fathom the vastness of space? So that putting in perspective is very humbling for me, because in this vastness of darkness and light, here we are, a speck of dust on this little rock, just tumbling through at thousands of miles per hour into oblivion, right? So it's very humbling, and it's very self-centering. It's grounding to understand where we are as a human. That being said, at the end of the day, the only thing that we can really, the only thing that we're going to be left with is our memories and the folks that we inspire and cross paths with. But science for me is, it's fascinating. I don't really know why. Well, I guess I just explained why I've been so drawn to it. But then, so just moving into my career, getting into HVAC initially, it was just that, hey, this is a good trade, and I can learn this trade. I'm going to learn as much as I can possibly learn, because I'm not gonna say that I'm indispensable, because that's not fair to say. I think anybody, anytime, can be indispensable, but I'm gonna make it really hard to get rid of me. I'm gonna make you want to get rid of somebody else first, because I'm gonna be smart and I'm gonna work hard. And that was just my direction in my career. So I just wanted to be the best HVAC guy I could. But then I got, as energy efficiency starts evolving, I'm like, man, thermodynamics comes into play, and I start learning energy calculations and energy loads, and it's all just basic science. So now I really get excited about it, because I'm like, this is my career, and I love science. I can merge the two. Oh, well, by the way, shoot, now I can bring in insulation, and now I can take inverse coefficients of each other, and I can merge it all together, and I can be a building science professional instead of just an air conditioning guy or an insulation guy. I want to be the guy that's known for understanding the dynamics of how a building's physics functions, whether it's efficiency, comfort, or indoor air quality. I just want to be able to put it together and understand the science behind it, and then be able to teach that to somebody else.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know that there's a handful of guys that I know that are obsessed with this, just like yourself.
Yeah.
You know a lot of these guys, because you guys can have probably hours and hours of conversation about building science, but you guys are very unique when it comes to your love and your joy of the science aspect of making a home sealed properly, and why you're doing that. So yeah, man, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
This next topic is always a little bit controversial. It's talking about regulation, right? And
Sure.
I love to ask this to the guests on the podcast, because everybody has their own opinion, but for the most part, there's been this census of regulation, and I would say majority of people feel like there needs to be something happening.
Sure.
Not necessarily Washington, D.C. getting involved, but something industry wise. And I think you have a unique perspective with being an HVAC owner as well. What's your take on regulation within the spray foam business, as well as like what you've seen as an HVAC owner?
Yeah, so I am, and can be at times, a very politically charged person. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. Sometimes I just get passionate about things. So that being said, typically I have a very conservative thought process. Conservatism typically is it's small government. We don't want regulations. We don't want restrictions, so to speak. But however, I don't find that to be the case in the spray foam industry. The spray foam industry is not that we are just providing a product. We're providing or providing a service. We're manufacturing a product, and we're manufacturing it in someone's home, and we're manufacturing it at a very costly expense. And it's not being manufactured in a constant environment of a laboratory or a manufacturing facility where all the parameters are the same. We're manufacturing a product in which humidity changes, substrate temperatures change. It's just so many changing variables, and these variables change throughout the day. So everything is evolving. I feel like there should be some form of competence demonstrated to be able to perform that task. It'd be different if we were providing a solution that could be easily changed out. In the air conditioning industry, sure, it's not cheap, but if I put in the wrong HVAC system, we can rip that out in a day. We can put it back. We can resize it. Boom, 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 and you're done. That's not the case. I've never actually had to do that, but it could be done. You go and put in $20,000 worth of spray foam in someone's house, and you're not going to just pull that right back out. That's going to be a very costly expense, and it's not something that a homeowner should have to deal with. The problem is that it's hidden within our industry that homeowners typically don't know that that's even a problem, because it's not widely known that there's no certifications, no regulations, there's no licensing involved. So I heavily believe that there should be some form of licensing. With blowing agents, with spray foam, it's all just refrigerant, HFOs, HFCs. And in the HVAC industry, I have to have a mechanical license. I have to have an EPA license to buy refrigerant. Why do I not have to have an EPA license to buy something like spray foam, with the same content in a much larger quantities? So yeah, I believe that there has to be some form of regulation, but I also think that it should follow the HVAC industry. I think, again, just how they affect each other in a house, they're inverse coefficients of each other. I think the industries should somewhat shadow each other. I think that manufacturers should have to sell to distributors. And I think distributors should have to sell to contractors. I don't think that there should be a bypass there. I think it's a bit of a conflicting interest. But in the HVAC industry, I have to submit my licensing and my certifications to my distributor to be able to buy their product, and I have to show that I've been properly and competently trained to utilize it. Unfortunately, I'm not saying it's always the case, because we really have some really, really good manufacturers out there, and the manufacturers in this industry are some of the most gracious people that I've ever met, much more so than the HVAC industry. But the first time I got introduced to this question was at the conference in Minnesota, the Spray Foam Worldwide event. And, that was one of my questions amongst the panel of industry experts. And so I was like, hey, raise your hand if you think that there should be some licensing, or better yet, raise your hand if you don't. And a bunch of people raised their hand. And then I'm like, okay, keep your hand up if you've got a $2 million insurance policy. It's amazing how many of those hands came down. But same thing, raise your hand if you believe there should be regulations, should be licensing. Everybody keeps their hands up. It's amazing if you ask that same question, how many of those people keep their hands up? That's not a coincidence. And I think that if you're afraid to take a test to demonstrate your competency, you shouldn't be in a field that can dramatically affect someone's financial status. Yeah,
as well as their health, if it's
done. And their health. Oh, absolutely. So yeah. So, one of the first charitable events that I got involved with Spray Foam Worldwide was an event that Evan put together up in Boston. And we all flew up there. Was it 2022? Maybe, yeah, 2022. And just beautiful house, just sitting perched up on this hill overlooking the most beautiful settings in Boston. And I mean, this new house was just full of crap foam, and it smelled horrendous. So here we are, I don't know, 20 contractors from around the nation fly in, and we're all tearing out foam for 3 days. Yeah, it's an experience that no homeowner should have to go through. They're so happy to move into their new home, and it's something that nobody should ever experience.
Yeah, I agree. I guess the hard thing is to figure out what this looks like, and how does the industry get you know the
Sure.
formal regulation in place before Washington
Right.
DC says something. Do you think
Well,
that's something that starts with SPFA and with their certifications that they do?
so I
Or?
think
Hey friends, Anna here from Spray Foam Genius, and I'm excited to sponsor today's episode with Todd Bolton. If you're tired of hearing crickets instead of the phone ringing, I get it, but we can help. Our team specializes in getting spray foam contractors ranked higher on Google, so when people search, you show up. If you're ready to start getting better leads and staying booked out, give us a call. US is 877-840-FOAM. Canada is 844-741-FOAM, or check us out online at sprayfoamgeniusmarketing.com. Now let's get into it. Todd's bringing some solid value.
I think the SPFA is the leading advocate, and the SPFA is the SPFA is what is going to be the body that makes the most sense to continue to lead the charge and set those parameters. I think that if SPFA, I think, is doing a great job at leading that charge. It's tough to get over that hump when you're dealing with such a controversial topic. But the fact of the matter is that if the industry as a whole doesn't figure out how to self-regulate, the government's going to step in and do it. And if the government don't do it first, it's going to be the mortgage industry. And
Yeah.
heaven forbid the mortgage industry step in and start staying, or even the insurance industry. So I hope that it comes to some form of head soon, and I believe it has to.
Do you think that's going to be start from guys like yourself kind of getting together with your, these friends of yours that you consider, your masterminds, these guys that get together and just kind of like almost self-imposing some regulation, which I know kind of sounds a little crazy, but self-imposing some regulation or educating homeowners from the perspective like, hey, don't trust anybody that doesn't have this PCP
Sure.
certification or whatever it is to do foam in your house, because I feel like it could also be used as a selling point versus just
Sure.
There's a lot of underbidding going on out there. I know there's guys that are just basically giving this stuff away, then doing crappy jobs. So to use it as a selling point as well.
Yeah, for sure. I just lost a bid on a project last week, and I thought it was going to be a really nice project. But the guy was, I don't know, 55% of my cost. And I'm like, there's just no way he's that cheap. And it's hard for me to tell a homeowner that they should hire an installer or a company with specific certifications. Sure, if they could get a certification, it may give them some sort of sense of competency that they're a level above each other. But the truth is that there's still some really good guys out there that don't have those certifications. So my idea is not to take away from that, but I will be quick to tell a homeowner to make sure you hire someone that submits a certificate of insurance with their estimate. That's at the very least you can do is cover your ass. You just pay, and that's a very simple thing to do. They just ask the insurance agent to send one over, and they'll send it right over. And if they've got insurance, good.
Yeah, because then you actually have some sort of recourse if there is any issue that happens.
Sure.
To try to go after somebody's uninsured, man, you might
Well,
forget about it.
Forget about it. Absolutely. And when I say the same bid that I just lost because the guy was, it's like between 55 and 60% of my cost. I told this was a high-end home that a contractor's building, and I asked the GC, I was like, well, did you get his certificate of insurance? And he was like, well, this guy says he doesn't have the insurance himself, but he's got it through another guy. And I said, what do you think that when this guy screws your house up, that the other guy's going to come forward and say, don't worry about it, my insurance is going to handle it? Get out of here.
Yeah.
So there's a direct correlation between the low bid and guys that are not insured.
I can tell you, I owned an insurance agency for a decade, and if that scenario came across, I can tell you the underwriters are like, "No way, this isn't happening."
You're on your own, bud.
Yeah, you're on your own. We ain't covering this. So,
Yeah.
what a crazy, like it kind of makes you question the GC too. Like, come on, dude. Like, you got 2 brain cells or what?
Yeah, and unfortunately, sometimes the GC they want to do it for the least possible price that they can, and what's even, and same particular GC, I'm like explaining to him why we do and create air barriers in certain places, like around the garage, to make sure that we're maintaining the integrity of our indoor air quality. And hey, we got to put foam here, we need an air barrier. No, this contractor says just put fiberglass there and it'll be fine. Well, sure, code says you can put fiberglass there, but should you? And so that got that particular contractor thinking about what one's level of competency is in the industry. So I don't know. Until I get a contract on something, I consider it lost. So I'm going to be hard pressed to think that I'm going to overcome a 45% deficit to get that project. But I think the guy, he's going to be silly to go with another contractor, but we'll see.
Well, I don't want anything bad to happen, because I'd never wish that upon somebody. But part of me kind of wishes that this situation doesn't go well, and then he comes back to the expert and says, "Todd,
Sure.
I screwed up, and in the future, man, going forward, I'm not going to question you. You obviously know what you're talking about."
Absolutely. One of the last things that I said though was that if you do pick this particular contractor, I want to provide a free third-party inspection for you, because I want to nitpick the hell out of it, and I will make sure it's perfect.
Oh man, I feel sorry for that guy, because I know what's coming.
Oh, it's coming.
I'm pretty sure he's not obsessed with building science like you, so he's
Right.
not going to know what the heck hit him.
Yep. We'll see.
So, you've been a business owner now for quite some time. Is there something that you would share with any of the new business owners? If you could do something all over again, what would that be? Is there anything that stands out?
Look, let's be real. If I had the mindset that I have now, I'm 41. If I had the same mindset 20 years ago, probably be a billionaire by now. Because every lesson that I've learned, I've learned the hard way. I think the biggest thing in business is, sure, you want to leverage things, but it's just to not overextend yourself and just maintain your integrity. But at the end of the day, I will say, so I've got 3 older kids, and then my wife and I just have our baby boys too, and she has a 5-year-old. But my 3 oldest sons are 17, 13, and 10. And I wish I would have been the father to those 3 that I am to my 2-year-old today. Because when they were younger, my mind was get after it, and to an extent you have to do that. It's just it's to be successful, there's a level of sacrifice that's got to be made. But the truth of the matter is I wish, and I'm not saying I was never there for my kids. Believe me, if they have an event, a game, a sporting event, something at their school, I'm there.
Yeah.
But there's a different level of mentality when you hit my age, and you're on you're just driving down a different street. And so sometimes I'm a little bit guilty for the father that I am to my youngest son versus where I was with my older boys. That being said, if I had anything to do over again, or anything to say to a new person coming into business, is just to maintain that level of integrity, because there's no sacrifice worth sacrificing a relationship with your family.
I love that answer, man. I absolutely love that, because I'm a little bit older than you. I turned 47 here in a few months, and I agree with you. My daughters are young. I became a father a little older. They're 13-year-old twins, and I became a business owner with my first business about the same time. And putting your kids to bed, doing those things that are not adding money to your bank, it's extremely important. It's those things that you can never get back. I always think about, well, you know, I know you have your son with your wife is your youngest boy. He's what, 2 or 3 now?
He's 2. Yep, he's 2.
2. Yeah. So like I think about this when my daughters, can I ever get age 2 back? I can never get those years back, bro. But to think about how much more money I could make, I can make money no matter at a different time, you
Sure.
know? And it's really just about prioritizing that, because I think I think it's really cliche. You always hear about this as your kids get older, like, man, where'd those 18 years go, or whatever the case is, like, where'd time go? But
Sure.
I feel like the older we get, man, the quicker it goes.
Yeah. Well, you know, the fact of the matter is that growing up, we're ingrained with this philosophy that we have to trade time for money. We have to spend this time. Like we're like, if we want to get this money, we got to trade this time for it. As a business owner, you don't have to have that mentality. You just got to be smart. And I have lost more money than most people can ever fathom. A lot of it's got to do from bad decisions, and a lot of it's got to do from trusting the wrong people. But you can be smart, and you can have both, because the truth is we don't have to trade time for money. And the earlier someone realizes that and becomes a confident business, because confidence is key. You can't really do anything without confidence. But you know, if you walk into a room full of bankers and you're the most confident person in the room, that you can take their money and turn it into something, they'll be handing it out, throwing it at you. But as a young businessman, you just don't have that level of confidence, or I didn't. I thought I had to earn that. Yeah.
You have to,
Sure.
I think it's those, like we talked about, you know, briefly, the failures and the challenges that we go through is what brings you the confidence, because as a young man, you haven't had those situations happen. So how do you build the confidence if you don't, you know, get back
Sure.
up and continue on? So, man, it's Todd, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you a little bit better. I mean, I know we've been acquainted for a little while, specifically because of our both our mascots, our Einstein. We met officially in Vegas a couple years back at SPFA show. But I know there's going to be a lot of people that tune in to this episode, people that want to connect with you. So, you know, let us know how people can get in touch with you. Is there, you know, where can they find Todd Bolton at?
Yeah. You know, and people reach out to me on Facebook Messenger all the time, just, you know, with questions about applications, different climate zones. You know, if they have just general questions about building science, and I'm happy. Like it drives me to be able to answer those questions. It's you know, when someone reaches out. So the easy thing to do, reach, you know, friend me on Facebook if we're not already friends. Shoot me a message. When I see it, I'll respond. Or, you know, give me a call. Shoot. If I stay wide open, I might not always answer, but you can shoot me a text. And, you know, cell phone number 803-239-8314. Reach out to me anytime.
Right on, Todd. I appreciate you coming on the Foam to Fortune podcast and sharing all your knowledge. And man, it's been amazing to think that 2020 was one hell of a year, bro. But you look back on it and you are a better man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, not a problem, man. Have a good rest of your night.
Take care.
See ya.